Rob. So Rob, on Friday is Ask the Pastor. So anything you want to ask, you can just ask, you know. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
All right. It's not related to group right now.
No, it's fine.
All right. So I see those pictures of the football team in the coffee shop. Are you somewhere connected?
Yeah, so I'm the chaplain for them.
Okay.
For 18 years,
Okay.
I've been their chaplain. If that interests you, I'm looking for my replacement. So.
You passed
Huh?
the Jermaine.
Yeah. Hey. Did you ever play? Huh?
Yeah, I love high school football.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. It's like I watch it. I go to high school football.
Okay.
Before
Well,
NFL game.
next Thursday, you have to come with me. That's their next game. Okay. I used to have to feed them. I used to, when we first started, they didn't have anybody to even feed them the pregame meals or anything. And so Fridays, I'd be in the kitchen cooking for 60 people.
Before I came here, when I was at the restaurant back home, me and the owner of the restaurant used to cook for the local high school team.
All right.
Every Friday.
All right. Sounds like you're. Send your resume. Absolutely. Any other questions? Do I believe in the flat earth? Where's the missing link? What else? Were there dinosaurs on Noah's Ark? I mean, these are all questions.
I got one.
Okay.
Can someone be too religious?
Absolutely. I hate it. It's one of the things I hate the most is people who are too religious. Now, let me say this. You can't be too spiritual. Religion is fake spirituality. Religion is doing things with methods and means to impress. Spirituality comes from the heart. There's a purity, to it. Now, I've seen people that are and now let me give you a caveat. We also just can't judge people too much because some people are pure at heart. They're just not that bright. Like they mean well, and there's a purity about that, but it's like with spirituality, let me say this, with spirituality you have to know that there is opposing spirituality. What I mean by that, there's God and there's the devil. So you have to have a certain level of smarts and wisdom about yourself. You know what I'm saying? And then when you apply that wisdom to everything, even your spirituality and everything, you'll have to understand that spirituality, some people, you know, you've heard the saying, they're so heavenly minded, they're no earthly good. That's kind of what I'm talking about just being kind of naive. Maybe they're pure at heart, but they're just not wise. But I think that wisdom comes with the understanding, knowing that there's a devil, and you have to be smart about things, and spirituality without character is flaky. Spirituality, you can write that one down. Spirituality without character is flaky. You become like a box of cereal filled with fruit, flakes, and nuts.
I mean, do that. Flakes and nuts.
It's like a box of chocolates. No, he's like a box of cereal. Fruit, flakes, and nuts. But you got to have that character, right? Because that's probably one of my, I guess sometimes I would put those people in the category of religious, but I know a lot of well-meaning people, good Christians, who are just, they're weak. They're not, they don't have the discipline. They don't have the character to do the right thing. And again, I say the right thing. Let me say this: do the hard thing. Because when you know there's an opposing force, you know there's darkness, you know there's evil that is attempting to stop you from doing the will of the Lord, then you have to have a certain level of wisdom, and you have to have a certain level of discipline and toughness to oppose that, do the hard thing. You know, I don't even want to say do the right thing, because a lot of people think they're doing the right thing, but I never see them do the hard thing. And it's very seldom that the right thing isn't hard. The right thing is usually hard. Because you're going to get opposition. The devil's going to oppose you. Circumstances are going to arise to try to stop you. So I'll even say this in health, right? Like some of this stuff will show up. It shows up in everyday life, right? I believe that your spirituality should show up in your character and show up in your everyday life. Disciplines, right? Your disciplines in your finances, your disciplines in your health, right? It should show up. Why? Because you can't be, I'm all about the will of God, and the purposes of God, and then you're so unhealthy, you cut 12 years off your life. By 7 years, we'll take 7 years off your life for smoking, and another 7 years off your life for doing other things, and it's like, or you can't, I don't know. To me, all of it goes together. It all ties together. And that doesn't mean that you become instantly perfect in all areas. But as you pursue God, you begin to see the seriousness of everything. Little things matter. Little things, in fact, all of our lives are just made up. Life is just made up of a big ball of little things. Our lives are just a big ball of little things. They're not big things. They're just a bunch of little things. Well, let's say, you say, oh, in the Bible, you can't show me where, marijuana is wrong, smoking cigarettes is wrong, we could show you where overeating is wrong, over drinking is wrong, but even, whatever, different things, and it's like, no, but if you know that it's unhealthy or and you can just live off the scripture. If you know to do right and you don't do it, it's a sin. That's in the Bible. I think so. So what happens for a lot of folks is, like, admittedly, most everybody in this room has come from kind of a rough life, right? A rough background. Haven't made the best choices, and maybe wasn't even birthed into the best situations, right? So you're kind of behind the 8 ball to start, let's say. What was I going to say? The little things, a lot of times we think that it's not a sin. It's not a sin, or I'm not doing this bad thing, right? And for a lot of us, like, that's good, because we used to do a lot of bad things. And so you come here and you're saying, I'm going to reset my brain and I'm not going to do bad things anymore, right? Well, that's not Christianity. And that's where, then this is even where religion comes in. Religion is not doing the bad things. Okay? It's not just stop doing bad things. Like, that is a whole negative mindset. Like just even thinking like that says your mind has not been renewed, that your mind isn't, or you're still thinking like the world, or you're still coming at, and listen, it's not, you're not a bad person for thinking that way. Most everybody thinks that way. Almost everybody thinks that way. We think in terms of sin or hell or bad. It's wrong. It's not wrong, right? Like, and can I tell you, that whole mindset is attached to a punishment mindset. Again, I'm trying to avoid consequences and avoid punishment. And like, you can live your whole life like just trying to avoid punishment, consequences, and not be doing wrong. But man, what a horrible mindset. What about having your mind fixed on all the good stuff? See, there's a story in the Bible where Jacob and Jacob loved Rebekah. Okay? Fell in love with this beautiful young girl. And her father's name was Laman. And he was a big-time rancher, sheep herder, pretty wealthy. And Rebekah was beautiful. And Jacob falls in love with Rebekah. And so Laman arranges this marriage, agrees for Jacob to marry Rebekah. And but on the wedding night, and you have to understand the culture back then, everything was all done with veils, and you never got to see, it was like a week long, wedding ceremonies and stuff like that, and the groom never got to see the bride until the night, of when they would go in bed together. And Laman had an older daughter, Leah, and he knew it was going to be hard for him to marry Leah off because she was not pretty. And it wasn't right that also in the culturally, it was, not that it wasn't right, but you always wanted your oldest, children to get married first, right? So here's Rebekah, she's young, she's beautiful, and older sister still doesn't have any prospects of a man. So on the wedding night, honeymoon, and you have a week-long party, so and he veils up Leah, puts the veil and everything on her, and gets Jacob's partied and everything, and goes in to consummate the marriage, have the marriage consummated, and it's Leah in bed with him. And so Laman's like, well, she's yours now. That's the one you married. He wakes up in the morning and it's the ugly sister that he ended up marrying. Well, he still loved Leah. He still loved Rebekah so much that first off, Laman told him he had to work 7 years for him to marry his daughter Rebekah. So he worked the 7 years, gets tricked, ends up getting Leah. And then he's like, well, you want Rebekah, you got to work 7 years. And he did. So he worked another 7 years to get Rebekah. And and everything that Jacob did flourished. So like Jacob was making Laman tons of money because his part of handling the ranch, handling everything, they were just prospering because of Jacob kind of took it all over, and for 14 years was basically running the whole show for old man Laman. But it came time for them to part ways. He wanted to take all of his children, Laman's grandchildren. By then, 14 some years later, he was having kids, and the farm was growing and everything. And he said, I want to leave you now. I'm going to take your daughters and your grandkids, and I'm going to strike out on my own. And but I've worked for you for 14 years. Like you owe me. Like half of these sheep and all this stuff are mine. Like you wouldn't have any of this stuff if it wasn't for all the work that I put in. And so they came to so Jacob knew that Laman was a cheat and a trickster, but guess what? Jacob's name means cheat and trickster. So Jacob was a cheat and a trickster too. So this is a long story to get to the point. So he goes to Laman and he says, and back in the day, you wanted the purest of the sheep. You wanted the spotless lamb, right? You've heard of the spotless lambs, pure, no marks, just pure white, and everything like that. Well, Jacob didn't care so much about that. A lot of times he knew that sometimes even some of the healthiest ones and biggest ones had spots and speckles and stuff like that. And so he went to Laman and he said, I'll tell you what, he said, for the next whatever, I think it was probably next year, he said, I'm going to leave you and we're going to part ways. And he says, what we'll do is all the spotted and speckled sheep will be mine. And you can have, I'm not going to take none of the good ones that, and Laman's thinking, great, because they breed, to try to breed all the impurities or whatever out. So he says, when I leave, the only thing I will take is the spotted and speckled sheep. So they come to an agreement. So what Jacob does is down at the watering hole, and this is the point right here. Down at the watering hole, he takes and cuts limbs off of birch trees and beech trees, and then he whittles away in the bark, so the wood behind the bark is white, right? And the outside is dark, right? And so he goes and he takes all these, just tells all the servants and stuff, take all these little branches, 5-foot branches here, and whittle dots, make them light and dark, light and dark, light and dark. Shave off the bark in spots, and so it's kind of black and white, black and white, black and white, and all these sticks look very spotted, black and white, dark and light. And then he says, I want you to take it down to the watering troughs and all the watering holes, and I want you to surround all, for months, these sheep would come there, they would drink at the watering hole, and they'd be looking at spotted and speckled sticks that were dark and black and white, black and white, black and white, all over the place, all over the farm, everywhere there was a gathering spot at a watering hole. He did that. And he did that for a couple of years. Well, guess what? All of the sheep, when they would breed, all of the sheep came out spotted and speckled. There was like 3/4 of every sheep that was born was spotted and speckled. And like he gets ready to leave, and he's taken like 3/4 of Laman's the farm goes with Jacob, right? He hustled him. But the point is, whatever you look at constantly, that's what you'll become. Whatever your focus is, that's what you'll become. It doesn't matter. So let me ask you, what is this focus here? What is, I will not do cocaine. I will not drink. I will not drink. I will not drink alcohol. I will not drink Jim Beam. I will not drink Hennessy. I will not drink Budweiser. I will not drink. I will not drink. I will not do cocaine. I will not do heroin. I will not do opioids. I will not do this. I will not do this cocaine. I will not, no cocaine, no cocaine, no cocaine. What is the focus? Cocaine. I will not drink Budweiser. Oh, I will not drink Miller Lite. I will not drink. What are you thinking about? When you say, I will not do what? What are you thinking? Like you are imagining snorting a line of cocaine saying, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to drink. And you're imagining doing it and just saying, I'm not. But the biggest part of the imagination and the biggest part of the focus is on doing it. That's where most people miss it. Paul said, he said, I don't have to obey the 10 Commandments. And they were like, what? The 10 Commandments or it, thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not, all the knots, right? You can't murder, you can't steal, don't lie, don't do this, don't do that. He said, I don't have to obey the 10 Commandments. He said, I've shifted my thinking from the punishment of don't do this and don't do that, and that's wrong, and that's wrong, and that's wrong, and I'm not going to do wrong. He said, I've shifted my thinking to I'm going to love. I have to obey one law, and that's the law of love. And if I follow the command of loving my neighbor, like I said last week, I don't have to worry about being covetousness. I don't have to worry about coveting my neighbor's wife or my neighbor's ass or my neighbor's car. Right? Because I love my neighbor. I'm happy for my neighbor. I want my neighbor to have nice things. So I'm not trying to stop doing wrong things. I've shifted all my thinking to I only do wise, positive, good things. If you only do wise, positive, good things and you meditate on wise, positive, good things, are you going to have any time to do bad things? If you live over there in that realm. But see, people who say, I'm not going to do this, can I tell you, you just live on the edge. You live on the edge of always having to make a decision. Oh, is it wrong? Is it right? I can't do wrong. Most all the wrong that you'll do is because you have put yourself in a wrong place at a wrong time around wrong people with wrong thinking in your head saying you're not going to do wrong. What are the odds? Wrong place, wrong time, wrong thinking. But you're not going to do wrong. Bullshit. You're going to do wrong every time. You're going to do wrong every time. And you're going to make excuses. And you're going to make excuses why you're there, at what time you're there. The whole point of coming here is like, hey, there's a whole nother life that isn't wrong, and you can live in this place and not be around all of that. And yes, does it take a lot of energy to stay in right places, in right relationships with right people, and be accountable and live up to a higher standard of character, right? Yeah, because you know what? Right people don't put up with that crap. right people just shake their head. Listen, you can go to a certain group of people, and I said this, you and give your excuses. But good people, they're just going to shake their head, roll their eyes, and be like, yeah, there they are again, saying what they say. Ain't nothing changed. And you told them an excuse. And is it wrong? Did you do wrong? Are you going to hell? No. But you don't have the character to hang with quality people. Because you're still thinking about, I'm not going to do cocaine. I'm not going to do cocaine. Do you understand?
Pastor, do you think that's the reason why a lot of companies like Dare, or even back in your day, Boy Scouts, or even kids that used to say, I'm going to be a good boy or good girl for McDonald's. Do you think that's the reason why, as they got older, by 13, they started what you're saying, doing certain stuff?
The world, the environment looks at it that way. This is what I'm saying. It's not that it's abnormal. It's you have to be conscious to make that shift. That I'm not going to think like that. So I'm not going to think like, what can I get away with? All right? Because we went through this last week, that the wages of sin is death. You're not getting away with anything. Everything is a choice of life and death. Everything. You think because you got away with it for a week or 2 weeks or whatever, and that's not the thing. The death is you have a death mentality, for one thing. That you're still over here in this realm of death-mindedness. Again, I'm going to cheat death. It's not going to kill me. It's not wrong. Like, yeah, so what are you thinking about? Wrong, death, it's not going to kill me. Well, do you ever just jump over here and go, life, there's life. How can I live wholesome? How can I be the most honest I can be? How can I be the wisest, most disciplined, character, kind, loving, respectful, responsible person? Like, is that where your brain is constant? Because if your brain is thinking like that, I'm telling you, you're less likely to screw up. Because you're not thinking about, how can I get away with doing something wrong? It's, how can I do something awesome? And you start putting your energy and your mind into, how can I do something awesome? How can I be the most responsible person I can be? Not how can, I'm only getting paid. He only told me to take the trash out. He didn't tell me to clean the maggots out of the bottom. Well, if there's maggots in the bottom and it stinks, what if you took your energy? What if you were the kind of person that thought, how can I make the trash cans the best, most beautiful trash cans that there are? I'm just telling you, if you were that kind of person, thinking, how can I just make life more beautiful for other people? You're probably not going to be thinking about doing cocaine. I mean, it's a shift. You know, how awesome can I be? How can I live up to beautiful image that God created me in. God created me in his image. Let me explore what is the image of God? Perfection and holiness and righteousness, kindness, tender mercy, loving, kind, grace, right? Hardworking, disciplined, bending over backwards, going the extra mile, being able to take a slap in the face. Man, I need to develop myself into that kind of guy. What kind of, and you start thinking about that. Well, like I said, there's a whole system, and most of you are caught up in the system. Like, same thing on religious. Religion is the letter of the law. Guess what? The court system is the letter of the law, and they have lawyers and what the Bible calls scribes and Pharisees and all this and that, and they have one objective: to argue the letter of the law. What are they arguing? Well, Your Honor, it's not wrong. I mean, really, it wasn't him. He was under the influence, right? Let's argue the case. Was it the drugs? Or was it Daniel? Was it, Which one was it? Your Honor, we have a good case for the fact that it was the influence of the this and the that. You cannot give him the maximum penalty. You cannot say that he's wrong. Have mercy on him and grace on him, and let's go to the lower side of the of the consequences here, because and then really you got to know the whole story, Your Honor. I mean, it wasn't even really the drugs. It was his childhood. I mean, if you knew all the stuff that happened to him, then he started taking drugs. But Your Honor, he's got a job now. He's got a job. Got to take that into consideration. He's got a family. Got kids. And what are they arguing? What are you arguing? Right? You're arguing about, no, wrong is wrong. See, over here, on the righteous side of it, wrong is wrong. And if you live, and right is right, and if you live in right, you're not arguing about how wrong something is or how little of punishment you should receive for what you did because you have excuse. That's what the system does. And y'all are, anybody that thinks like that, whether they have court, whether they're facing a judge, a police, or whatever, you're still trapped in a system. It's an argumentative system. It's a system that you're trapped in. Do wrong, get caught, argue, plead your case, do wrong, get caught, plead your case, have a little fun while you, and listen, the mentality of everybody that's there, oh man, come on, party up, I know a way you can earn there, and I'll tell you what, it's not going to be as bad as you think. I got the name of a good lawyer who can get you off, and you. You're trapped in a system of just thinking wrong. Doing, you're not, I'm just telling you, you do know that there's people that go to work and it never crosses their mind. Like, I'm not tempted. So here's another thing the Bible says. The Bible says this, that let man not say that when he's tempted that he's tempted by God. For God can tempt no man, for he has no sin in him. And that no man can be tempted except that there's something in his heart that allows him to be tempted. I've said this before. I am not going to look twice at a 70-year-old African American 350-pound woman. I'm not going to be tempted. I'm not going to be tempted into lust. I'm not talking bad about any of your grannies either, okay? I mean, I don't mean to do that, but I'm just not, it's not my thing. There's no place in my heart that is going to make me be tempted. Okay? It's not in there. So I can't be tempted. You know what I'm saying? I can't be tempted. But now if I have a thing for 28-year-old, fine, you know, there's a thing in my heart. I can be tempted. It's in me. I can't say the devil did it. I can't say God did it. It's in me. It's in me. And so I have to know that. And I can't make excuses. I have to work. But so then if I know that, then I try to work on how awesome I am. I try to put all the guardrails in place. I try to make sure, why? I try to make sure that I'm not led astray. But even with that, I don't have to think about, like, I don't have to throw myself up into a group of cheerleaders or something and go, I'm not going to be tempted. I'm not going to be tempted. I'm not going to, no, like spend your time, doing right things the right way. And you're not going to have even the opportunities for that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not chatting girls up. Is it wrong? No, it's not wrong to talk to a girl. But I'm not living on this, is it wrong? You can't judge me. So many of you have wanted to buy that t-shirt. Some of you may have had it tattooed onto your body. You can't judge me. Unless you walked in my shoes, you can't judge me. The universe will judge you. Your actions will judge you. Stupid is stupid. I don't have to judge you. Everything is wrong is wrong. But my whole point is like, we got to stop thinking along those lines. Like, would it be wrong for me to talk to every pretty young 28-year-old that comes into the thing? No. If I was being judged. Right? No. He didn't, I didn't say, hey, baby, you want to come later on? My wife's not going to be around. We can go around the corner. I'm not saying that. I'm just like, hi, how you doing? But one is a defensive mindset. One way of thinking is a systems way of thinking. How far can I go and what can I do and get away with it? And one says, I don't want to have nothing to do with it. I live by the law of love. And so if I love my wife, and if I love my God, and if I esteem my reputation, and I love my community, and I need to have a good reputation within my community to be able to do what I do, and I need to be trusted. You know, parents need to be able to trust their daughters, and I need to be able to go onto the football field, right, where there's cheerleaders and dancers, and it just drives me crazy. It absolutely drives me crazy, man, what these bands, marching bands and stuff, like the vulgarity. They had these 13, 14-year-old girls doing it. Like, it's just, like, if I was to do that as a 60-year-old man without a marching band behind me, I would be arrested. I was thinking about that, right? I mean, if I went and stood in front of, you know, like high school, you know, bleachers or you know, high schoolers, right? And I'm going, I can't even do it. Pop, lock, and drop it, or whatever.
Oh, mercy.
I'm telling you what, the cops would show up and arrest me.
Either that or just be
Let alone if I had some spandex on, right? If I was doing it in my Speedo up at the high school. You're gonna be thinking about that all day. You're gonna be. I would be straight up arrested. You see, I don't want to see you up there. The football team comes out the locker room. This is what they do. The football team comes out of the locker room, and there's Jermaine in a Speedo. You got to have a marching band behind you when you do it. No marching band, you're getting arrested. You just tell them that you identify as a 15-year-old high school girl. Your pronouns are she, they, and you'll be okay. You'll be okay. You won't get arrested. Here's my assistant, Jermaine. He's going to cheer you on to victory. Yeah, you come on up. You come on out with me next Thursday, Jermaine. We got an experiment. How old are you? Huh? How old are you? We're going to see if a 46-year-old man in tights can pull that off. And then I'll be your lawyer, I'll be your advocate in front of the judge. I say, Your Honor, he's just doing what all the other 16-year-old girls are doing, cheering on their team. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. But this is what goes through my mind. So you think, man, I wonder what Pastor's thinking about. You don't want to know what I'm thinking about. This is the kind of things I think about. Like, why can she get away with it and I can't? Sometimes watching the band and watching the dancers and the cheerleaders, I'm like, this is crazy. And then a little 3-year-old girl, then a little 3-year-old over there, you know, then just when the band's playing, this little 3-year-old doing that. Over there trying to mimic, you know. I was like, oh, and we don't know what's going on with our country. We don't know why our country's so bad. We don't know why, you know, I don't know why my daughter got pregnant at 14. You know, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. But this is the system that people are trapped in. Like, let's do as much crap, and we won't say it's wrong. You know, we'll say we're cheerleaders. You can tell by my anatomy, officer, that I was happy and excited. I was a fan. As I opened my trench coat. I was just celebrating her beauty. I was excited. I was a fan. I mean, isn't that what fans do? They get excited. I would make a great lawyer. Let's see. We'll see. You're going to be my first client. I think the game is Thursday. We'll probably be in front of the judge on Friday. I'm not going to be able to get... What color Speedo do you see him in? I'm already envisioning this. I don't, for some reason, just a hot yellow Speedo. His stage name is Chiquita. Anyways, you got to get your mind off of those things. You got to get your mind off of those things. Don't even have it in your mind. Like really, if it's in your mind, you know, you're flirting with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I won't do this, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to... It's in your mind. You're imagining flirting with it, but in the end, you're telling yourself, oh, I'm not going to do that, right? It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Just adding a little, I'm not going to do that at the end of 3 days of imagining the temptation. And then be like, oh, but I'm not going to. It's like that. What, you just 3 seconds of saying, I'm not going to do it, undoes the 3 days of imagination of what if? How could I get away with it? And how enjoyable would it be? No, I'm not going to do it. Right? Every single person would be overwhelmed. You have to, this is why you're here, to learn a whole different side of life. Like, don't be looking at, again, and go back to Paul. He said, you know what, I obey the law of love, and so I don't have to worry about lying, cheating, stealing, doing all of these negative things. I don't have to say I'm not going to do those. I don't even have to think about doing those, because I'm working on my love, and so my focus is how best, so if Daniel does something that I don't like to me, rather than me thinking, oh, I'm not going to get even with him, he this, he that, he this, he that, but I'm not going to, or does love say, how best can I show Daniel kindness, because the word says love your enemy, and even if he's probably not my enemy, but even if in the most extreme case I was to put him in an enemy category, God tells me to love him. So let me meditate on what love is. Love is kind, love is patient, love does not take into account wrong suffered, love is love. And you start meditating on the beauty of love. I'm not meditating on, I'm not going to hit him. I'm not going to hit him. I swear I want to hit him, but I'm not going to hit him. Right? Well, he deserves it, and I can't believe he did that to me and everything, but I'm not going to, but. See how that's completely different? No, it's like, love is kind, love is patient, love, kind. What act of kindness? How can I be kind to Daniel? You know, how can I gotta forget that stuff, because it says love does not take into account a wrong suffered. Love's not keeping a ledger. Love's not remembering all this stuff. So I can't even think about that. Let me just think about something else. And so when you totally shift from thinking, is it wrong, or it's not wrong, or it's not a sin, to, you know what, I want to be the best version of myself that I can be. I mean, if you truly began to pursue the absolute best version of yourself, be the kindest you can be the most thoughtful you can be the most responsible you can be, you're not even going to be doing wrong. If you do wrong, can I tell you, it won't be because it was in your heart to do wrong. You know, sometimes we're out here trying to do right, and we're doing good, and we're in it, you know what I'm saying? And we do make mistakes, but we didn't intend on doing it. And we're not wrestling. Most everybody in this room, if you admit it, it's like everything about your life is this wrestling match. My point is about, I don't wrestle with a lot of things that are wrong. Right? I've structured my life in a way, I'm around good people, good environments, on a good mission. I know what my purpose is. My God, has created me for good things and righteousness, right? The Bible says he's the glory and the lifter of our head. In him I live and move and have my being, right? And so I wake up with him. I'm conscious of him. I'm not conscious of sin. I'm not walking around like, how can I avoid getting punished? How can I lessen my consequences for right? Like I've made a habit. So I went over to get a Gatorade or a tea. We had Arizona iced tea and Gatorades over there in that Amazon room, and they were supposed to be for the football team. Of course, I went in there and they're almost all gone. And I'm sure it's probably most of my staff who's pilfered them. And I'm sure in their head they justify, well, I'm hot, I'm thirsty, they get stuff for free, blah, 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 blah. And so people just been randomly taking one here and one there and one here and one there. And over the course of 2 weeks, 3 or 4 people take one here, one there. And, before you know it, 30 of them are gone. See, in my book, I call that stealing. Because you didn't buy them and you didn't ask permission of the person who owns them or controls them. So therefore, it's stealing. So, and I don't steal. And so it doesn't enter into my mind. Listen, I'm just using this as an example. It doesn't enter into my mind to take something without permission, because that's stealing. But when you take something without permission, like Gatorades and Arizona iced teas and things, just because they're there, because you have access to them, but if you didn't buy it and you didn't get permission, it's stealing. So I don't steal. Now, I don't think about stealing. So hear what I'm saying? I don't think about stealing. Well, is this stealing? Is this not stealing? Is it okay if I take this or whatever? No, I have a standard, like Paul had a standard, said I live by this law of love. It's such a higher standard that I don't find myself in these situations. I always have the answer before I go into a situation. Like I would never touch that without asking, may I have this? That I ask authority about stuff like that. But see, when you live in the area of justification, well, it's not stealing. They got them for free. They're here. They must be for somebody to drink. Why not me? So I'll just take 1 or 2. It's a hot day. It's extremely hot. It's not just hot. And I've been working here without, and so therefore, right? And you have to go through all this rationale. Why? Because you're still living in the system of making justifications. When you're completely removed from it, I don't get caught up in that. If I have to, you've heard me say this, if you've been around for very long, I think I said it last week in the sermon. I usually say it at least 2 or 3 times a month in some speaking thing. If you have to explain something, you're wrong. But just let me explain. It was 104 degrees. We were getting ready to go out and mow, and the cooler, and I forgot my cup and everything like that, and so I just took it. If you have to explain something, you're wrong. What is explain? Explaining something is lawyering up. An excuse means that you're bringing out your lawyer to explain something. So you can plead your case and hopefully get off without any consequences. My question to you, Christian, is why are you in the courtroom in the first place? Why do you have to explain something?
Because if you do it right, you never have to explain anything. You don't have to explain anything to your lawyer. You don't have to explain anything to the judge. You don't have to hear the evidence from the policeman. You don't have to listen to what he said and she said and everything like that. It's just, I don't find myself. Do you know how many times I have to, I'm being real. As a man, one of my weaknesses is an attractiveness to young ladies, okay? But you know what? I don't ever have to explain nothing to my wife. You know how many times I have to explain something to her? Never. You know why? Because even though I might know that there's something inside of me that's attracted to whatever, I never put myself in a situation where I would ever have to explain something. If you're, let me make excuses, let me explain, and you were wrong from the jump. Live your life in such a way where, like I said, if taking something that doesn't belong to you that you didn't buy with your own money, that had a price tag on it, and you find it in your possession or on your body, in your hair, in your ears, or down your throat, then guess what? You just stole. But see, that's not your standard. You're over here in this world where you get to explain things. And you get caught and oh, it's not wrong, and let me explain why it's not wrong. Really? I'm just saying, there's a whole life that exists outside of having to explain why this happened, why that happened, whatever. And it's called in the world of absolute. I tell my staff, don't be talking on the phone when you're at work. Guess what? If that becomes an absolute, then you never have to explain nothing. Right? I'm real big on be where you are. Be in the moment. I don't like my wife, but this is one of the complaints that people have, blowing up my phone. And I'm like, I'm in a conversation with Daniel. Whatever you have to tell me can wait. I'm all in on this. Why? Because this is in that moment. And guess what? If you're supposed to be at work, you're supposed to be at work. I'm hiring you. You do know that you're hired, almost all of us are hired for our brain. I want you to think about this. You're hired for your brain. Some of you think, oh, I'm hired to be a cashier. I'm hired to cook. Well, try to do all that without your brain. What, some Gumby wet noodle like I'm going to pay them money, So basically what you're telling me is your brain is preoccupied, so I'm buying your brain for that hour. But you're only giving me half your brain because you're thinking about something else. Think about it. I'm just saying, when you start living in this world of how can I maximize everything, right? I'm not trying to do wrong. Let me say it this way. I'm not trying not to do wrong. I'm trying to live holy. Whew. Make that shift. I'm not trying not to do wrong. I'm trying to live holy. I'm not putting my efforts in not doing the wrong stuff. That's the wrong place to put your effort. Why don't you just put your effort into living holy? See, when holy becomes your standard, that ain't even right. Because right, that ain't even good. Because right and good is comparative. Everybody has their own idea of what's right. Like I said, that's this trap of right and wrong. Let's get into an argument about it.
You think that's why the U.S. or even the world alone is messed up the way it is?
It
Even
is.
for example, like how
That's why 13-year-olds can get out there in a freaking bathing suit with leotards and you know, do this out in public on a you know, and we call it cheerleading.
kind of like
No, it's vulgarity. Like, you know, if you were in the strip club, we'd be putting dollar bills in your, you know. Well, how many moms are going to be proud that what's your daughter do? Oh, she's a stripper. I don't see mom as being like, hey, I just wanted you to meet my youngest daughter, Mary. She's a stripper. It's awesome. She's great. You should come see her sometime. No, but we'll do that. We'll be like, yeah, my daughter made the dance team. You should come see her. Or should I get a cash in a bunch of a 20 and get a bunch of singles? You know. You understand what I'm saying? Like, there's a whole nother world where if you see, we can argue, right? See, I could get into a loving argument with a proud mother of a 15-year-old girl who made the dance team, and we could get into an argument about whether it's good, whether it's bad, what the social ramifications of that is, you know. But I don't think there's any argument if you say, well, is it holy? You think that's something that she would be doing if the Son of Man, Jesus the divine, showed up? Huh? Is it holy? See, when you start living holy and you start putting your emphasis and your thoughts on how best can I be holy, not right and wrong. Right and wrong is a human scale. Right and wrong doesn't have to do with measuring your spirituality. It really is measuring your flesh. You're living in the realm of the flesh, arguing with your brain about fleshly, intellectual arguments. Going back to what's spiritual, you know. But see, when you live from your spirit, and your spirit is now trying to live holy, not good, by Leroy and Bubba's standard, we all good. I can get Mookie and Pookie to sign off on everything I do. Right? But that ain't it. See, Christian, you have the Holy Spirit living in you. Does the Holy Spirit sign off on it? Probably not. And so now when you start putting your energy, and again, you're here to develop. You're here to develop that whole side of you and see that. Then guess what? You can get out of the whole trap, and now you never having to worry about, I'm not saying never. I mean, you're always going to be dealing with this flesh because it's, your sensory perceptive thing is the way you take information in, why you feel, how you smell, what you taste, what you touch, what you see, what you hear, right? Those are feeding you information that you're making decisions on constantly. But when your new leader is your spirit, and your spirit is being led by the Holy Spirit, right? This is why it says we don't walk by feelings, we don't walk by sight, we walk by faith, right? And that faith, see, what you got to do is you got to start putting your faith in the absolute, okay? The absolute is that whatever God says, that's the absolute, right? That's the absolute. So righteousness, holiness is awesome. It's the best. That there is a perfect thing for me to do today because it's been preordained by God, right? And so therefore, if my steps have been preordained by God, then, and I've never thought about it this way, I can be perfect today. What? I can attain perfection. How can I obtain perfection? I can walk out the preordained, what God has preordained for me to do. Right? He's preordained me to have interactions with certain people. And if he's preordained that to happen and he knows that's going to happen and he's preordained it, then he's probably preordained certain words should come out of my mouth about when I interact with them. And it probably shouldn't be things that are unholy, because he wouldn't preordain me to say something that was unholy, unrighteous, right? So in a sense, I can be perfect. I can do what he wants me to do. Can I tell you this? Again, it's not easy. Doing the right thing isn't the easy thing. Doing the preordained God thing, the holy thing, it's not easy, but it is attainable. And the more you do it, it's a discipline. Like I said, I have disciplined my desires, let me say this, I've disciplined my carnal desires, my lowly nature, right, that wants certain things and everything. I've disciplined them and I have not paid them attention. And you know what happens when you don't utilize things? Everything. This is in the world. If things don't get utilized, I could have the most mint vehicle, fix it up, and I like vintage cars. But guess what? If I just put it in a garage and didn't touch it for 20 years, you know what would happen? It would rot. It would get worse, right? It decays, it atrophies. Guess what? If there's things that are inside you that like I said, I'll just go back to this. So maybe I have a thing for 28-year-old, but if I don't ever do anything with that, and I'm constantly over here working my spiritual muscles, and I'm listening to the Holy Spirit, and I've put things in place to make sure that part of my carnal nature and everything has been walled off and kept in, then one day I look in the closet and I'm like, that thing's weak. That doesn't, the spiritual man is so much stronger than that. It's not as much of a temptation anymore. You know what I'm saying? I'm not,
perfect example. I'm not standing on the sideline at the football game now watching these girls gyrate and do all this crap that if they were in a club, I'd be slipping dollar bills in their panties. Now I'm disgusted. You know, I'm thinking, and I see the little 3-year-old up there, and I'm thinking, this is why our society is as bad as it is. You know what I'm saying? I'm not looking, going, I'm not taking a second. I'm saying there's a time, and it could be there if I would feed it, and if I would make excuses for it, and if you know what I'm saying? If I meditated on that, but I've disciplined myself. No, I'm not going to give that a second thought. No, I'm not going to look a second time. No, I'm going to put things in place. No, I'm going to be holy. I have a reputation. There's other things that mean more to me than that. Right? My standing in the community means you need to remember that. You want to have a good reputation. Don't be going up there in your Speedo next Thursday. You might get a reputation that you can't live down. The wrong reputation. You understand what I'm saying? You can live this way and put so much energy and so much effort into it that what you are now producing, like even whatever you think on, that's what you're going to produce. And so if you're thinking I'm not going to do this and it's just constant like negative, you're still going to produce the negative. Right? That's why it's addiction and everything is genetic, you know, or if your parents did it, this or that. Is it that, or is it just that you had it in front of your face for so long? And how many of us have sworn, I'm not going to be like my father. I'm not going to be like this. I'm not going to be like that. I'm not. But then the image, the whole image was that. And that was the focus. And then you wonder, how did I end up like, that was what I swore I wasn't going to do. But now that's the thing I'm doing. It's because you're focused, you understand? Instead of saying, I'm not going to be like my father, maybe, who was a drunk, if you could have said, I'm going to be a preacher. I'm going to be a righteous, holy man. Didn't even think about the negativity of your father, right? Instead, you find a positive role model that I'm going to be like that. I am going to be like that. See, anytime you say, I'm not going to be like this, you're already wrong. Instead of saying, I'm not going to be like XYZ, or I don't want to do this, replace it and say, I am going to do, and replace it with something positive. And that's how you have to think. Otherwise, you're just in this trap, and you're swirling the toilet. Just get out of the toilet completely and start saying, I'm going to be like that. I'm going to model my life after this person. This person's an admirable person, and I'm going to find out what she does. How does she conduct her prayer life? How does he conduct his? How does he think the way he thinks? Well, how does he spend his spare time? What books is he reading? What books? And I'm gonna become like that, right? And you will. But you can't be like, I'm not gonna do this, because that's the very thing you'll find yourself doing. Okay. Well, round and round and round. We're going to have to edit some of that. That might not be for prime time right there.